Good afternoon, class. And these are examples of crops that we grow in Zambia and the livestock.
We'll look at our geographic expression.
Good afternoon, class. I'm Ms. Munsanje, and I'll take you in civics, grade 9. Last time we were looking at trade, and we said trade is the buying and selling of goods and services. And we also talked about the chain of distribution, and we said the chain of distribution is the route goods take in reaching the consumers, who are the last beneficiaries, the end beneficiaries in these stages. We looked at the stages of a chain of distribution, and we said the first one is the producers. The second one, the manufacturers. We also talked about the wholesalers, retailers, and the last one, the consumers, who are the end beneficiaries in this chain of distribution. And today we are going to look at local and international trade. Local and international trade. So we are going to start by defining local trade. Local trade. What is local trade? We are saying local trade, okay, before we say that, local trade is also called internal trade. It is also called internal trade and domestic trade. So we are saying local trade is the trade, or it's the buying and selling of goods and services within the country. Local trade is the buying and selling of goods and services within the country. So this one, local, it takes place within the country. So we are going to look at the examples of local trade. So the definition, local trade is the buying and selling of goods and services markets. This is one of the examples. Malls and also in shops. Buying and selling of manufactured, local because we are looking at local trade. So buying and selling of local manufactured goods in shops, malls, and also in the market. So we are saying buying and selling of locally manufactured goods, for example, in shops, supermarkets, so you have shops, supermarkets, and malls. This is another example of local trade, buying and selling of local manufactured goods in shops, and examples of those goods that are manufactured local are sugar. We have Nakambala sugar. They produce and manufacture sugar. We buy sugar from the shops, from the malls, from the markets. Those are examples of the goods that we buy from these shops, malls, also the soaps. There are a lot of goods that are found in these small shops, supermarkets, and also in malls. Operating service businesses. Operating service businesses. We also have these operating service businesses, and examples of these service businesses are the barber shops, the saloons, even the restaurants. Those are examples of operating service businesses. All those are examples of local trade. Okay, there are also, these are not the only examples. These are just some of the examples of local trade. So all these take place within the country. Let's look at the advantages of this local trade. Advantages of local trade. Advantages of local trade. The first one, low transportation cost. Low transportation cost. When it comes to transportation, local trade is very cheap. It's very cheap as compared to international trade. So for this one, trade taking place within the country involves low expenses on transportation facilities, and goods are moved in very short distances because it takes place within the country. Okay, so this reduces the transportation risk and also transportation. Local trade, we are saying there is low transportation cost of these goods that are sold and bought. The second one, large employment opportunities. Large employment opportunities, large employment opportunities. So you're saying internal trade or local trade generates a large number of employment within the country. So you're saying with the rise in number of domestic firms or companies, there's also a need for manpower, and this creates employment for the citizens of the country. So countries that practice this kind of trade, local trade, they create employment. There is large employment opportunities for the people of the country or for the citizens of the country. Because when the firms or the companies rise, it means also the job opportunities will be there for the citizens of the country. The second advantage of local trade is promotes self-reliance. Promotes self-reliance. Okay, so we are saying when a nation is producing everything, it does not depend on other countries in meeting its needs. When the country produces everything, it does not need or depend on other nations for meeting its needs, and that makes it an independent economy. It will not depend on other countries because it will be able to produce everything that the citizens will need. Okay. The second advantage of local trade is less competition. Less competition. Less competition. So today in high competition between these imported goods and local manufactured goods, there is high competition. So for this local trade, when a country is pricing this local trade, there is less competition. So we are saying market competition exists only in between local brands of the country. The competition which is there is just between the local brands of the country, thereby prevents the exploitation of domestic firms by foreign firms or companies. Okay. The fourth advantage is no trade barriers. No trade barriers. So you're saying local trade follows few formalities as compared to foreign trade, and it is free from trade barriers. There are no restrictions imposed, and trade can be conducted freely in any part of the country. There are no restrictions imposed on this because business or this local trade, it can be conducted freely anywhere within the country, in any part of the country. Okay, let's look at the disadvantages of local trade. Disadvantages. Of local trade. Disadvantages of local trade. So the first one is no sharing of resources. No sharing of resources. Okay, when trade is conducted within the country, it means there will be no sharing of resources. So countries relying on internal trade lack the chance of sharing resources from foreign countries. So a country cannot import goods from other countries. So there is no sharing of resources. Even the country that, for example, those countries that practice this local trade, they only depend on their resources. Okay. The second one, limited choice. Limited choice. Limited choice. Okay, so we are saying local trade restricts the entry of variety of advanced imported products, due to which consumer is left with limited options available in the country. So there is limited choice for the customers because importation of goods from other countries is not allowed. So there is a restriction in the entry of variety goods from other countries. It's a disadvantage. The third disadvantage, no foreign earning. No foreign earning. For example, in Zambia, we export copper and we earn. So you're saying local trade faces difficulties in supply of essential items like food, medicine, clothes from abroad due to restrictions imposed by them on international movement of goods. So when there is an emergency in the country, for example, a famine, the country can be disadvantaged because importation of goods from other countries is not allowed. So there is difficulty in terms of emergency. Okay, let's go to international trade. International trade. So we have two. The first one is local trade. Then we go to international trade. Okay, let me use this side. So that was number 1, local trade. Number 2, international. International trade. What is international trade? So international trade is also known as foreign trade. So this is the buying of goods and services between countries. International trade is the trade which takes place between countries. So it's conducted between countries. So you're saying buying and selling of goods. This is the buying and selling of goods and services between countries. buying and selling of goods and services between countries. This is also known as foreign trade. It is also known as foreign trade. So goods are traded, most of them they are finished goods. Goods traded in can be finished products. For example, television sets, radios, cell phones, all those are examples of goods that are traded in international trade. Also, raw materials in producing other goods or agricultural products and foodstuffs. So this one can say, we can give examples, goods traded in, examples of goods traded in, goods traded in can be finished products. For example, radios, cell phones, TV sets, and many other finished products that are traded in this kind of trade. Okay, so this one takes place between countries. It is conducted between countries. Let's look at some of the advantages. The advantages of this international trade. Advantages of international trade. Advantages of international trade. Okay, so we'll start with foreign exchange. Foreign exchange. So you're saying Zambia's main revenue comes from the export of copper and other agricultural products. So when Zambia exports raw materials like copper, it earns foreign exchange. So you're saying Zambia's main revenue, Zambia's main revenue comes from the export of copper. So international trade is very good for Zambia because Zambia, it brings foreign exchange in the country. It brings foreign exchange in the country. Okay, competition. Advantages, competition. So this one can be a disadvantage, but it's also an advantage for Zambia. So I'm saying competition from international trade can also force domestic firms to become more efficient through modernization and innovation Most of the goods that are imported from other countries, they are of good quality. So because of that, Zambia firms work very hard in order to improve in their products. So you're saying competition from international trade, competition from international trade, competition from international trade can also force domestic firms, can force domestic firms or companies to become more efficient, to become more efficient. They will be forced to improve through modernization and also innovation. Okay, the third one. Zambia benefits from foreign direct investment. Zambia benefits from foreign direct investment. FDI. Okay, so you're saying Zambia benefits from FDI, from international, who invest large amounts of money and equipment to set up businesses in Zambia. We have investors who have businesses in this country, and Zambia benefits because they don't conduct their businesses for free. They have to pay something to the country. Okay. International trade also enables a country to consume more than it would be able to produce if it depended on its own resources. So a country consumes more than it would be able to produce if it depended on its own resources. So it enables a country, this international trade enables the country to consume more than, to consume more than it would be able, more than it would be able, more than it would be able to produce. Okay, so because of this international trade, we are saying a country is able to consume more than it would be able to produce locally. Because for local trade, a country depends on its own resources. But this one, international, a country is able to consume more than it would be able to produce if it depended on its resources. Okay. The next one, we are saying international trade allows a wide range of goods from different countries. International trade allows a wide range of goods from different countries. For example, Zambia imports cars from other countries. Zambia imports cars from other countries. So we are saying it allows a wide range of goods, allows a wider range of goods from other countries. For example, Zambia imports cars from other countries. Okay. The next one, we are saying international trade encourages the development of better transport and communication links between different countries. So, transport and communication links between countries is developed or can be developed because of this international trade. So, encourages. So we are saying encourages the development of better, encourages the development of better communication and transportation links between countries. Okay. So international trade also encourages competition, which brings about better prices. It also encourages competition, which brings about better prices. Okay, let's look at the last part of this lesson, disadvantages. What are some of the disadvantages of international trade? Disadvantages. Disadvantages of international trade. Disadvantages. Okay, so we are going to look at some of the disadvantages of international trade. International trade and demand for cheap products have made developing nations a dumping ground for second-hand goods. So I say international trade and demand for cheap products have made nations like Zambia a dumping ground for second-hand goods. For example of these second-hand goods, we can talk of vehicles. For example, Zambia imports vehicles from Japan, second-hand vehicles. So this international trade has made developing countries to be a dumping ground for second-hand goods. The second disadvantage, we are saying local culture and industries may be affected negatively by foreign imports. Local culture and industry, can give an example of the film industry. When you look at these industries, film industry, for example, in Zambia, for example, the Zambian markets have been affected by these international trade. So we can talk of Nigerian films that we watch in Zambia. Instead of watching our own films, instead of watching the films that are produced in Zambia, we go for Nigerian films, for example, and this has affected the local film industry in Zambia. So this is a disadvantage to the country. Okay, the last disadvantage local trade is that local trade can make developing nations dependent on stronger economies. Foreign trade can make developing nations dependent on stronger economies. So you're saying the weaker country may then have to accept whatever terms the stronger trading countries set, even if it's not to their advantage, because they depend on stronger economies. So whatever terms Zambia will be given by the stronger economies, even if it benefits the stronger economy, Zambia has to follow. So this is also a disadvantage. Okay, let me just write down the disadvantages. So we can say foreign trade can make developing nations dependent, or international trade can make developing nations dependent on stronger economies. Dependent on stronger economies. Local culture and industry. So we are saying local culture and industries may be affected. May be affected negatively by foreign imports, or by foreign imports. The last one, international trade and demand. So international trade and demand for cheap products have made developing nations a dumping ground for second-hand goods. Okay, so for today we'll end here, and next time when we meet we are going to look at the crimes and also challenges faced by local and international trade. See you next time.
Good afternoon, class. And these are examples of crops that we grow in Zambia and the livestock.
We'll look at our geographic expression.
Good afternoon, grade 9s. Welcome back to our lesson for religious education, grade 9, on division. So last time we looked at division, the causes of division between people. We talked about the causes of division between people, and we mentioned a few things on those things, like the selfishness that people have amongst themselves. We also looked at the jealousy, the pride, exploitation, poor leadership, tribalism, greed, theft, deceit, favoritism, corruption, and also discrimination. So these are the things that cause a division between people. And we also looked at countries fighting over division. Okay, we looked at countries fighting over divisions, and they fight usually because of maybe resources such as land, oil, and minerals, and also suspicion and mistrust. And the other one was also religious beliefs, ideology, and also economic system. So that's what we looked at the last time we met. And then we also maybe touched the division in Christianity and the division in Hinduism. So today we are going to look at division in Islam. Division in Islam. Okay. So we are looking at division, sin, and forgiveness. That's our topic. Okay. So forgiveness. I'm looking at just. So it teaches about all men being the same but not identical. That's what Islam teaches us. There is a difference between the abilities of each man, the potential of each man, the ambitions, also wealth, and also beliefs. So we are looking at them not being the same, but and also not identical. So we are looking at in the areas where things like the ability of a person, a different person. So we are looking at these four things: the ability, the potential, the ambition, wealth, and also the belief. Okay, so Islam teaches us about men not being the same, but also not identical. In them being not the same, meaning men differ in the ability of what they can do, also in the potential of what they can manage to achieve, the ambition. Maybe others may be ambitious to do more than others, and also the wealth that one has can be different from the other person, and also the beliefs. Some of them believe in Christianity, some of them believe in Islam, and even in Islam they are also they differ in belief. Okay, so that's what Islam teaches. It teaches the Muslim in the sight of God. Okay, so we also look at the Quran says, unbelievers do not serve what you believe, and believers do not serve what you believe, nor do they serve what I worship, nor would you ever serve what I worship. You have your own religion, and I have mine. So this is what the Quran teaches us. So it teaches about believers that do not serve what you worship. Okay, so the Quran Unbelievers don't serve what they worship. Worship. So unbelievers do not serve what they worship, nor do they serve what I worship. Nor do not nor will you ever serve what I worship. You have your own religion, and I have my own. Okay, so Quran says, unbelievers do not serve what I worship, what they worship, nor do not serve what I worship. That's what the Quran is saying. Nor you will ever serve what I worship. So that is the Quran talking about how unbelievers would take the Quran and how they'll behave. Okay, so I know what you serve, what I worship. You have your own religion and I have my own. So meaning each person is entitled to choose what they want to worship. Okay, so it's not imposed on them, but they just have to follow the rules of worshiping and what they and so on. Then we also, this is what the division in Islam talk about. So when we talk about the Quran and what's talking about the worship thing, so people are at liberty to choose what they worship, and they don't have to mind what the other person is worshiping. Okay, so this is a division in Islam. Then we'll also look at Jesus and the division and Jesus and the division. Some examples of division at the time of Jesus. That's what we'll look at today. So it's about division in Islam and also Jesus and division. So there are some examples of division at the time of Jesus. One of the examples of division at the time of Jesus was the Jews and Gentiles. So let's look at these two. So we'll look at the Jews . Jews and the Gentiles. Let's look at what these two were fighting about. Let's look at what the Gentiles and the Jews were fighting about. Anyone who was not a Jew was a Gentile. So anyone who was not a Jew was a Gentile. So anyone was a Gentile. Let's look at what this means. What would you say? Who would you call a Jew and who would you call a Gentile? The Gentiles are normally a person who is not a Jew. That's what they call. Those who are not Jews are called Gentiles. So a Jew is a Gentile is a person who is not a Jew. It's simple as all that. That's what they used to call them. If you are a Gentile, just know that you are not a Jew. Because Jews believed that they were chosen from God, so they distanced themselves from the non-Jews and so forth and so on. So they distanced themselves from the non-Jews, and because they thought that they were chosen by God. So Jews argued that we are different, we were chosen by God, and there's nothing that you Gentiles can tell us. Okay, so Jews are said to be chosen by God. Okay, so Jews were believed that they were chosen by God, so they distanced themselves from non-Jews. Okay, that's why. That's why they from non-Jews. Okay, so the thing that they were actually arguing about, these two, the Jews and the Gentiles, was that anyone who was not a Jew is a Gentile. So whenever you are called a Gentile in that community, then that means you are not a Jew. Okay, and the other one is that the Jews they believed that they were chosen by God. It was a chosen culture by God, and meaning they had to distance. It was just their nature that they had to distance themselves from non-Jews. That was it. The differences that they used to have, and that one brought division between them. Okay, then we also look at the Jews and the Samaritans. So the Jews and the Samaritans. Okay, so if anyone has just come, we are looking at the division between Jesus, the division that was brought about in the time of Jesus. So we've looked at the Jews and the Gentiles, where the Jews were saying anyone who is not a Jew was a Gentile, and that the Jews were chosen by God. That means they had to distance themselves from the non-Jews. Okay, so we'll look at the Jews and the Samaritans. So the Jews and Samaritans is what we are looking at right now, and this is what the Jews and the Samaritans were fighting about. Pure blood Jews hated Samaritans because they did not accept some of the Jewish customs and beliefs. So pure blood Jews hated Samaritans because they did not accept some of the Jewish customs and beliefs. Because So there you are. Pure blood Jews hated Samaritans because they did not accept some of the customs and beliefs that they believed in. The other one is because Samaritans did not worship at the temple in Jerusalem. So that is one of them, that the Jews were actually sidelining the Samaritans because they did not worship at the temple in Jerusalem. So the other one is because they did not worship at the temple in Jerusalem. Okay, so because they did not worship at the temple in Jerusalem, they were sidelined and they were called all sorts of names. So these are some of the conflicts that the Jews and the Samaritans had. Okay, so it brought division between them. The other one is Samaritans did not accept the Jews' scriptures. So Samaritans did not accept Okay, so Samaritans also did not accept the Jews' scriptures. This also brought division between the two. Okay, and the other one is they followed different religions. So they followed different religions. Okay, so the other one is that the was brought up between the two was that they followed different religions. Okay. Okay, so they follow different religions. So there we go. Let me just go through again the division that the division between Jews and Samaritans is that pure blood Jews hated Samaritans because they did not accept some of the customs and beliefs. Okay, they believed in other customs. So there was that conflict between the two of them. And the other one was because they did not worship at the temple in Jerusalem. So that one also brought some conflict, some division between the two. And the other one was Samaritans did not accept the Jews' scriptures. So the Samaritans were reading something else and the Jews were reading something else. As a result, it brought division between the two. And the last one was they followed the different religions. They followed different religions. Even here in Zambia, I can give an example of maybe the Islam and the Christians. They follow different scriptures. They read the Islam will maybe read the Quran, and maybe the Christians will read the Bible. So they are two different things. So it will bring division between the two. Okay. Then we'll also look at Romans and the Jews. So Roman and the Jews. Okay, so in the Romans and the Jews, Roman soldiers in Palestine forced the Jews to obey them and pay tax to the Romans. So the Roman soldiers in Palestine were forced. So Roman soldiers pay tax, and were forced to obey, were forced, Roman soldiers forced the Palestine to obey, pay tax to the Romans. Okay, so to pay taxes to the Romans. And the other one, many Jews hated Romans and wanted to be freed from the colonial rule. So many Jews hated Romans also. So hated Romans and wanted to be freed from the colonial. Okay, so many Jews hated Romans and wanted to be freed from the colonial rule. Okay, so those are some of the differences that they had. The other one was it. So Jesus, as a holy Jewish man, was accepted to keep himself away. So the other one was Jesus was told to keep himself away from these differences. Okay, so I want to write that one down, but just these, there are two that the differences that they had that brought division between them. Okay, so then we are going to also look at the Jews and the tax collectors. So the Jews and the tax collectors. Okay, so the Jews and the tax collectors. Maybe just a reminder, we are looking at the examples in the Bible that talk in the time of Jesus, what really happened, what brought about division in the time of Jesus Christ. Okay, so we looked at the Gentiles and the Jews and the Gentiles and the problems that they were facing between the two of them. We also looked at the Jews and the Samaritans. Then we looked at Romans and the Jews. Now we are looking at the Jews and the tax collectors. Okay, so the tax collectors were hated because they collected tax on behalf of the Romans. So the tax collectors were hated Okay, so the tax collectors were hated because they collected tax on behalf of the Romans. So they would go collect tax on behalf of the Romans, and they were hated. They also enriched themselves by overcharging tax. So because of being hated, the reason why they were being hated was because they were overcharging the taxpayers. Okay, so they would say, maybe if, for instance, if you are supposed to pay 10 kwacha as your tax, they will manipulate things, and maybe they'll tell you to pay maybe 15 kwacha. So for that they were hated. A lot of people, a lot of Gentiles, especially those who are looked down upon, hated these people. So the Jews hated the tax collectors because of them being overcharged. Okay, so enrich themselves by overcharging the taxpayers. They enriched. They enrich themselves by overcharging the taxpayers. Okay. Then we'll also look at the Jews and the lepers. The Jews and the lepers. The Jews and the lepers. Okay, so let me just we'll look at the Jews and the lepers. What brought division between the Jews and the lepers? Leprosy. Leprosy, a skin disease, was thought to be a sign of punishment for one's sin. So a leper, usually when someone has leprosy, they will look at them to be maybe they were having that disease because they had done something wrong. So it was a punishment by God to those people. This is a disease which was seen as a punishment for one's sin. So this one, the leprosy, was regarded as unclean by Jews. Okay, so this disease was regarded leprosy was regarded as unclean by the Jews. Okay, so whenever a leper came near the Jews, they would move away because they were regarded as unclean. The Jews regarded lepers as unclean. They were actually isolated in the old times in the Bible. Lepers were staying on their own there, and they were just there until maybe they are healed or something. Okay, so lepers were excluded from the community by the Jews. That's what I was actually talking about. They were actually excluded. They would go and stay somewhere. They had their own community where they would just stay as lepers with their disease. So okay, so lepers were excluded from the community. So I wonder how they would buy their food or anything. I wonder how they would do it. But they were actually outcasts. They were not regarded as part of the community. They were just excluded. They would just be there, and the Jews will go about their business. But for the lepers, they'll be excluded. They were regarded as unclean. Okay, so that is the conflicts that they had between the two, the lepers and the Jewish people. Okay, let's also look at the Jews and the sinners. That will be the last one. Jews and Sinners. So the Jews and the sinners. Jews and the sinners. Sinners such as prostitutes were looked down upon by Jews who obeyed God's laws strictly. So the sinners were actually, such as the prostitutes, definitely you would look down on someone who is prostituting. Okay, so the Jews looked down upon the prostitutes and said they didn't obey God's laws strictly. So the sinners, such as the prostitutes. Okay, so let me just write it here. Okay, so the sinners were, such as the prostitutes, were looked down upon because the Jews said they did not follow God's laws strictly. Okay, sinners were considered as unclean and so they were avoided. Okay, so the other one was sinners were they were considered as unclean. So sinners were considered as unclean. As a result, they were as a result, they were avoided. No one would regard them as people. People who would stay in the Jewish society. Okay, so situations where Jesus overcame division. Jesus overcame division by being open and being brave. So Jesus overcame division by being open or being brave. Jesus was open to everyone. He would tell you something and he would just, whether you get annoyed or not, as long as he has put across what he wants to say. Okay, he was a man of wise words. Okay, Jesus was expected to stay away from sinners, tax collectors, Romans, Gentiles, lepers, and to treat Samaritans as enemies. But let's look at the examples. Lastly, we'll look at the examples of how he treated the Romans, for example. He treated the Romans very well in a sense that at one point, if I can just give you the scripture in Matthew 8, verse 5 to 13, where he healed a Roman servant. He healed a Roman servant, and that thing shows love, that Jesus had love and he didn't believe in division between anyone. Okay, then like on the Samaritans, I'll give an example also on the Samaritans, which is found in John 4 verse 6 to 9. John 4 verse 6 to 9, where he talked with the Samaritan woman. I remember that story in the Bible at the well, where he talked to a Samaritan when they were not allowed to talk to Samaritans. Okay, but Jesus showed love and he talked to that Samaritan woman and he gave her water of life. Okay, so we also look at Jesus healing a leper. people were shunning the lepers. They were telling the lepers, they were excluding them from the community, and they were telling them to go and stay somewhere far away from the community. But Jesus touched the leper, healed the leper, and he told the leper to go and tell all the people that I'm healed from Jesus. And this is found in the book of Luke, chapter 5, verse 12 to 13. And the last one, Jesus socialized, ate and drank with a tax collector. This is found in the book of Luke 5, verse 27 to 50. So these are the scriptures that you can maybe look at your own time. I'll repeat in Matthew 8, verse 5 to 13, where he healed the Roman officer's servant. And in John 4, verse 6 to 9, where he talked to the Samaritan woman. And then in Luke 5, verse 12 to 13, where he healed a leper. And then this other one where he socialized, ate and drank with the tax collector in Luke 5, verse 27 to 50. Okay, so next time we meet, we are going to look at overcoming division and hatred in the 5 religions. Overcoming division and hatred in the 5 religions. So there we have it. That's what we had for you this afternoon. God bless you, and shalom, shalom.
Good afternoon, class. And these are examples of crops that we grow in Zambia and the life.
Look at our geographic expression.
Good afternoon, class. And these are examples of crops that we grow in Zambia and the life.
Look at our geographic expression.
Good afternoon, class. And these are examples of crops that we grow in Zambia and the life.
Look at our geographic expression.
Good afternoon, class. And these are examples of crops that we grow in Zambia and the life.
Look at our geographic expression.
afternoon, class. And these are examples of crops that we grow in Zambia and the livestock.
We'll look at our geographic expression.
Good afternoon, class. And these are examples of crops that we grow in Zambia and the livestock.
We'll look at our geographic expression.
So we only looked at the one column cash book. So today we are going to move on to the two column cash book. So remember we said the cash book is part of the books of original entry, and this is the book where we record only cash transactions that took place in the business, with only transactions that involved cash, okay? Not check or anything else, but cash. Remember we've got three types of transactions. We've got the cash, the credit, and the barter transaction. So today we're going to move on to two column cash book. So unlike the one column cash book, the two column cash book has got two columns, okay? So the first column is the cash column. Last time when we're doing the one column cash book, we looked at only the cash column. So this time we are going to move to two column cash book where the bank column is also involved. So the two column cash book involves two columns, as the definition itself says it. Two columns. One, the cash column. Remember, the cash column is where we record only transactions that took place with cash. And then the second column deals with the bank column. So under the bank column, we record transactions that took place where payment was done through the check or via check, sorry. It might be the business paying a customer by check or the customer paying the business by check. So under the bank column, that's where we prepare those transactions or record those transactions that have been paid for using a check. So under the bank column, the source documents that happen under the bank column is when the bank has got a bank book. So every account is supported by a bank book that at the end of the business or financial period, they have to compare the transactions that were recorded in the bank and in the bank books. So in this case, we have got a cash book. In this cash book today, we're looking at two column cash books where the both columns are going to be added, and the transactions that take place in the bank column are to be compared to the bank books. so as to know where the business stands or how the transactions have been going that month. So our two-column cash book resembles that of a ledger, as I mentioned earlier, but this time involving two columns. So this is how a cash book is supposed to appear. So it resembles that of a ledger. So first we are going to talk about the cash book. So the cash book source documents that are used to record, the first-hand source documents that are used to record in the cash book come from cash receipts. When we talk about cash receipts, these are receipts that we collect from our sellers. When you buy something from a shop and you're handed a receipt, that's a source document that we use to record that actual transaction in the cash column. And then if we move to the bank, remember I explained earlier on to say the source documents of the bank are the checks that are presented to the business when a transaction is taking place. So there's a copy of the bank books that are compared to the bank account. So every bank account is supported by a cash book. Sometimes even the transactions that are done between the cash sometimes pass through the bank. That's why the term we call contra entry comes in. So what do we understand by contra entry? So contra entry, this is where a transaction is completed within the same book. For example, cash withdrawn and deposited into the bank. So that's a contra entry because it has dealt with two accounts in the same book, like the cash book. So mostly what happens when a contra entry is done, there's a C indicating to say that's a contra entry. So once an accountant or maybe accounts clerk sees that, then they will know to say, oh, a contra entry has taken place between the cash and the bank. It can be sometimes the bank is the one withdrawing, depositing in the cash, or the cash is withdrawing and depositing in the bank. There are also times when the business owner decides to withdraw money for their own personal use. So mostly when that happens, you will see statements that says withdrew cash from the bank. So the withdrew mostly is the action that takes place. So when it says withdrew cash from the bank, it means there's a contra entry happening. But if maybe the statement comes out to say withdrew cash for personal use or for private purposes, it means that's a drawings, okay? So whenever the business owner withdraws money from their account, there's a degree that happens, okay? Decreasing of money, either from the cash or the bank, depending from where the owner decides to withdraw that money from. So drawings are personal charges Okay, so if maybe the owner withdrew from the cash, then the cash is going to have a credit side, a loss of that money. It might even be goods. So maybe they might go in that shop. If you sell drinks, maybe the owner decides to buy a drink, that's withdrawing for private purposes or private use. So this is how the 2-column cash book appears. So I have a question here that we're going to answer, where all these activities are involved. The cash, the contra, the drawings, and the bank column. They're all going to show us how transactions are recorded in such a book. So remember, we are still looking at books of original entry. And the cash book is one of them. Under the cash book, remember, we have a 1-column cash book, a 2-column cash book, and a 3-column cash book. We talked about the 1-column cash book where it only involves the cash column, meaning transactions that only dealt with hard cash are the ones recorded in the cash column. And then we have come to the 2-column cash book. So under the 2-column cash book, the bank column only records transactions that dealt with check, payments that were made through the check. It might be the business paying someone or the customer paying the business via check. Anything that does not do with check, you cannot place it in the bank. So that's what the bank column is for. It is to support the bank books and also to support the business account. So my question here is, write up the following for the books. Write up the following for the books of A. Chonwe for August. So enter the transactions in the double column book. So the question reads, enter the transactions in the 2-column cash book. Balance off the cash book and bring down the following. Balance of the cash book and bring down the following. Sorry, bring down the balances. So we're dealing with the month of August 2019. On the first, cash at bank from previous month. And then cash in hand. Our amount is 270. Cash in hand, our amount is 765. Second, drew cash from petty cash payments. Bought office furniture by check. Bought office furniture by check. Fourth, drew from bank for cash. Drew from bank for office cash. Drew cash for private use. Drew cash from bank for private use. So those are the questions we're going to try to record in the cash book. So remember, the cash book always has to have a title. So then you will know to say whose cash book are you dealing with. If any account or cash book doesn't have a name, it's very difficult for an accountant to know whose account they are accounting for. So the first rules when recording transactions, or maybe when trying to go through or correct or reconcile an account, is to know whose account you're dealing with. So if a cash book has no name, it's very difficult to know what you're dealing with. So the question reads, write up the following for the books for A. Cholwe. So we know who this cash book is for, okay? It's for A. Cholwe's business. So A. Cholwe's cash book as at August 2019. My board is small, but if it was big enough, I would have written the year in full. So A. Cholwe's cash book as at August. You also have to stipulate which month, what financial period are you dealing with. Is it January, is it February, is it March, is it August, is it December? It's very important to keep a record of the dates as well, because dates are very key when recording transactions in any account or any book that you're dealing with, despite how little or small that transaction carried that amount of money. The fact is the dates, the details, the month, everything must be recorded in order. So our first question reads, cash at bank from previous month. So these are brought down balances from the previous month. The previous month was September. The previous month, sorry, was July. So which means the balance that is coming forth from July, balance brought forward, is going to be recorded in the bank. The question reads, cash at bank from previous month. Do not get confused when you see cash in the same statement as bank. So this question is straightforward. The balance that was brought forward from the month of July into August in the bank column is 270 kwacha. August 1st. The details it has told us, so it's balance. And it's going to be on the receiving side, the receipt side. The receipt side, also known as the debit side, because that is the money that is in the bank account. So we come to the bank column. Remember, it's talking about the money in the bank, of which it is 270 kwacha. And then we move to cash in hand. So it's also telling us the balance that is in the cash column. So same month, or maybe we can use the same row. The balance is 765. So we are done with the first question. We move to the next. Drew cash from petty cash payments. Withdrew cash from petty cash payments. This is the action that took place, and it was the cash that was withdrawn. So we are dealing with the cash column because cash was being withdrawn, okay, from petty cash payments. So the amount, remember, we start with the date. Petty cash. Money has been withdrawn from the cash column. So the amount recorded in the payments column. When we look at the ledgers as we go further, we are going to understand what these columns mean. But in this case, we are calling the debit side as the receipt side because this is the receiving end, and then the credit is the payment column because payments are always paid out. Money leaves the business when you pay out money. So petty cash, 200. And you're done with that question. We move to the next statement. Third, bought office furniture by check. There was purchasing of office furniture. Payment was made by check. Sorry for the spelling. Payment was made by the check. So automatically we know that we're dealing with the bank column. Remember, the bank column only records transactions of payments that have been made via check. So third, office furniture in the details column. Payment is being done, so it's going to be recorded on the credit side of 300. We move to the fourth. Drew from bank for office cash. Drew from bank for office cash. So automatically there's a contra entry there happening. Drew from bank for office cash. So here money was withdrawn from the bank for the office cash to be deposited in the cash column. So remember we said a contra entry, this is where actions are completed within the same book. So there was no third party involved, it was just cash and bank. So on the fourth, we write cash, bank, being. So once a contra entry has taken place, indicate that C will help the accountant know that this is what is happening in this book. So in the cash. And that's how you complete the contra entry transaction. So after you're done with the contra entry, move to the next question. Drew cash from bank for private use. We come to the drawings. This is where the business owner withdraws money or uses stock for the business use. So this is where now money is being deducted from the business. If it's a profit, the profit is the one that weighs more is the one that comes in the total column. So on this side we only have 270. On this side, if we calculate, it's giving us 450. So already this side weighs more than this side. So 450 kwacha is put there. So we have to find the difference. How do we find the difference? We are going to deduct the 270 from the 450. So what is going to be our answer there? So the one that we find is the one that we place on the least part. So I don't have a calculator, so I'm just going to place any amount. So we have balanced off the cash book, the 2-column cash book, and that's how we deal with the 2-column cash book. So just a recap of what we have gone through today. We started discussing the 2-column cash book. Remember, the cash book is one of the books of original entry. So first we looked at the sales day book, we looked at the purchases day book, sales returns, returns outwards, and then we looked at the cash book. So the cash book, we talked about the 1-column cash book, where we said we only deal with transactions that deal with hard cash money. And then now today we've moved on to looking at the 2-column cash book. The 2-column cash book is the cash book that contains 2 columns, the cash column and the bank column. Under the cash column is the same thing as the 1-column cash book because it only dealt with the cash transactions only. But the bank column this time around, it deals with transactions made by check. By so doing, since two columns are involved in the cash book, there are times when they all have to change transactions within themselves. That's why the contra entry system comes in. The transaction is completed within the same book. In this case, books. It's easier to open up a cash book containing the cash column and the bank column. There are also times when discounts are given in a business. So when discounts are given in a business, this is where now we're going to move to the 3 cash book, where the discount column is going to be involved. Under the discount, we call discount allowed and discount received. So this is where we end for today. Next time.
Good afternoon, class. And these are examples of crops that we grow in livestock.
Look at our geographic expression.